So hi, this is Filmmakers in Ballroom. My name is Martin Del Carpio. I am here with Clayton. I'm here with Giacomo from the short film Kansas 1989, and also Jalissa from Filmmakers in Boardroom. And Filmmakers in Ballroom FIB Live is a conversation that we set up for underground indie filmmakers to discuss their journeys into filmmaking, their challenge, whatever challenges they might have had. It's a full discussion just in order for us all to communicate and be united in terms of this effort that we call the artistic ambition that we all have. So I do want to pass the mic for a second to the two guests that we have. I'm honored to have them on today's conversation. And if you guys could just introduce yourselves and what your role is in the film and a little bit of your background, if you guys went to school, you're self-taught, anything that pertains to what we're talking about today.
Sure, well, I'll go. I'm Clayton. I'm Clayton Dean Smith. I wrote and directed Kansas 1989. I am an actor first and foremost, came to New York a long time ago in that regard and did a ton of theater and a fair amount of TV and some film, and the film bug just bit. I love writing and directing, and Giacomo and I have partnered up. Very, very fortunate to have been introduced to Giacomo by a colleague, Jessica Cummings. And yeah, so Giacomo and I have been off to the races since.
I guess it's me. It's my turn. My name is Giacomo. I'm originally from Italy. My background is um, figurative art and painting. And then eventually, in my early 20s, I transitioned to cinematography. And to these days, I keep both practice alive. And Clayton is probably one of my dearest collaboration. And the rest of the time, when I don't work with Clayton, I live in the woods, as you can see.
Great. So yeah, it looks a great background, by the way, Giacomo.
Thank you.
I'm
It's all
jealous.
fake. AI.
So, oh my God, Kansas 1989. So I saw the film at the Queens World Film Festival last year in November. And to be honest, I've never met you guys. But I went because Beautiful Pen was screening with you guys at the time. And you guys popped on, and I remember sitting in the audience watching the film and just saying to myself, wow, and we're going to discuss all of this in terms of queer cinema and everything, but it was really cool to see such great cinematography work, first and foremost, and the framing and everything. And I'll, of course, have those questions for Giacomo a little later. But also just the simplicity of the story just worked on so many levels, I think. And I think it just brought a nostalgic feel for me also because I come from the 80s as well. And it was interesting to kind of like be pushed back to that time. I mean, the late 80s in particular, right? And understanding what it was back, how it was back then to deal with your to deal with the fact that you're gay, you're not gay, where the world was back then. I think a lot of the young people nowadays maybe take that for granted and because it's easier now, maybe, and we'll discuss all of that later too as well. But the film just worked just because in its simplicity, but it's a heartfelt story and it's a coming of age story, right? And it it talks about one of the most common threats that we gay people have sometimes, and we all have to kind of just say, well, what are we feeling right now? Where's this displaced attraction that we have right now, and what do we make sense of it? Being that you're not sure about yourself, although you think you are, but you're kind of like still uh discovering that, right? So what I wanted to talk about, apart from the theme of the film, but just also in terms of the prep for this film, I remember in the Q&A you spoke about how many years it took for you to pull it together, finally get it done. Um, Also, you as an actor, Clayton, coming in as an actor, going to become a filmmaker, how was that transition for you? And also, I'm sure you did a lot of the legwork on your own and getting the finance together, going with Giacomo over to Kansas to do scout location, all that stuff. Like, just walk us through all those challenges. I'm sure you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of topics there, and I feel like they're kind of the biggies. I mean, the queer storytelling, I think we'll get to that, but the well, first of all, coming from the thing about coming from being an actor, um, this is Giacomo's and my third project together. So the real moment of that, the real crux of that, wasn't even a transition, just leap for me was our first project together, which was called Off Track Betty, which also screened at Queen's World, actually. In fact, a award from Queen's World for that short, which was also shot on Super 16, was film stock that I had to use for another project from Kodak, which was fantastic. And that film stock is what we used for Kansas 1989. So it's very full circle with Queen's World. Shout out to Don Preston Cato and Kathy Cato for running an incredible festival and for that opportunity. So I trained for a long time as an actor with Bob Krakauer, who is an on-camera. He's the man. He's an actor whisperer. He'll just say something to you like, "Don't be an actor, just be a person, please," and just make everything really simple and access things in a way that we all know actors know, but it's easy to get confused and distracted or whatever, or scared or blah blah blah. So every Wednesday for years, I worked with Bob Krakauer and this incredible team of people, including Jess Cummings, who I mentioned before. And I learned so much about performance, but also directing in that context. And so for me, when I first started directing actors, it was an enormous gift because I understand how to communicate with everybody's different. Every actor needs to communicate in a different way. But I know from personal experience how not to communicate with actors for sure. And there's a lot of pitfalls, and a lot of directors make a lot of extremely basic mistakes, not realizing they're shooting themselves in their foot with their cast. And I loved that leap. I loved taking that leap. It was a huge joy. Directing other actors is one of my favorite parts of this. And yeah, as far as the financing and the work, yeah, I mean, it took a long time. We shout outs to our producer, Eden Martinez, who is here in New York. Eden and Giacomo and I were the only New Yorkers, actually, aside from executive producers Tim Perry and Renee Cafaro, um, from New York. Everybody else, cast and crew, was based in Kansas. And Giacomo and I did fly there to do location scouting. Of course, I'm from Kansas City. Not, of course, you don't know that, but I'm from Kansas City. Originally, I was like, well, I wrote this thing. I mean, I got to keep this on a budget. All right, just like I'm gonna like go out to Montclair and see what'll work, and I'll figure it out. And my sister on the phone was like, "What are you talking about? It's never gonna work, dude. New Jersey's never gonna cut it for Kansas. You have to shoot it in Kansas City." And I was like, "Oh God, you're right." And I'm so grateful for that, like very obvious nudge, even though it made things really complicated. It was also super fun. And Eden and Giacomo and I had a great time. And then working on the ground in Kansas City with our Kansas City-based filmmaker, producer, Anthony Tony Laddish, who was our other producer, who helped a ton with so many resources and his skills and gifts there. And crewing up and everything. Everybody was awesome. It was such a great group to work with. Kansas is a vibe, I swear to God. Giacomo liked it.
I loved it. I loved it. I considered moving there for maybe a month after the shoot. The hotel with the penguins.
Yeah, there's a 21C. We stayed in the
Yeah.
21C that was donated to us. Oh, right. So the funding stuff, there's a lot that can be said there. I don't know how many people are interested in all that, but the thumbnail sketch of that is I learned early on that sharing your goals publicly and asking for support where you need it is mandatory. I'm not even just talking about money or filmmaking. This is just in general. Like siloing yourself off and being like, gotta do this thing is the absolute worst way to go. And the crowdfunding that we did,
Mhm.
I worked with Seed and Spark and they were so good at it. And they have a framework around you are not asking for donations. You are building your team of supporters. You are enlisting them in the success of what you are excited about. It's no favors. It's like they're supporting. And I mean, the return on investment for an independent short film is emotional, it is artistic, It is perhaps spiritual. It is many, many things. It is not financial. So the people who supported were just this band of incredible people, and we've had screenings with them, and that process of being introduced to people who then became supporters who I did not know. That's how we got it made, was spending a lot of time getting the vision and the message and the ideas out to people, not in texts and DMs and simple little things, but in conversations and really robustly taking that on.
Nice. Okay. So, question in regards, I saw Off Track Betty, which I absolutely loved as well. I think it's just nostalgic also in a different way in terms of gentrification, what's going on in the city. But question in regards to Kansas 1989 with Off Track Betty, locations. I want to say maybe Off Track Betty, you guys shot guerrilla style, the street scenes and all that, but Kansas, you guys, did you obtain permissions to shoot publicly, like on certain locations in the streets? How did that work out?
Well, believe it or not, so the weird thing about New York City is the street. I mean, you got to file for a specific kind of permit if you want to shut down anything involving cars. So if you want a parking space for your trucks or anything like that, it's more work. If obviously if you want to shut down an actual street, that's a whole different thing. But if you're just shooting on the sidewalk, you got to get a permit, which is like, I don't know, $100 or something. I can't remember now, but it's not a big deal. The challenge of it is just doing it. The challenge of it is shooting outside of New York City is insane. I mean, one gift of shooting on film inside and outside in New York City for my first project, which is absolutely not recommended. I don't recommend it. I have a lot of advice to give about not doing what I did. But it was trial by fire and I just had to learn and it all went okay. But boy, the just because obviously people walk by and like, oh my God, and we're shooting on film. I mean, we're shooting on film. It was crazy. So that was challenging, but not because of needing to be guerrilla, with the exception, if anybody's remembers Off Track Betty, or if you're going to see it, the opening scene on the subway, that had to be guerrilla because come on. Yeah, Giacomo and I like hopped back and forth, and Diane Chesla, who was our lead on the J over the bridge. So funny. We'd get off, we'd be like, we need one more. We'd like take it back over, and that was guerrilla and scary because they can confiscate your stuff and everything.
Nice.
No,
So,
it was kind of simple. Yeah, now to add something what Clayton said, I think what gives the gorilla aesthetic or maybe a thought of being like gorilla style, maybe because it was our first project. So beside facing the challenges of New York
mhm.
and the traffic, the screaming, the waiting, yeah, you can shoot in the street, you can be organized. And also how we shot it was very simple. But everything is way less under your control. And being our first project and trying to simplify things, I believe that what we accomplished in Canvas was the result of us working together on three projects, of knowing each other better, individually being more mature. So I think what we achieved in Kansas was probably artistically more mature than OTB. And I still love OTB. I think that's a milestone. But yeah.
Nice. Okay. Um, all right. So talking about permits and permissions and such, we're going to get now to the biggie for Kansas 1989. First and foremost, I will say, Clayton, thank you very much for re allowing me to rediscover um, the music of Flock of Seagulls. Because, of course, I Ran So Far Away and Big Hit, we all know that song. But when I heard the other song, what was it?
Space Age love song, yeah.
Space Age Love Song. Yes, it was just so magical to hear how you utilize that, and also Love and Rocket, So Alive, right, in the film. And the way it was so effective, it reminded me, I don't know if you ever heard of this French filmmaker, Francois Ozon, how he utilizes music in his commercial music in his films, and it's so effective and it's so palpable and it just works. And when I was sitting in the theater, I felt like I was floating out of my seat when the Flock of Seagulls track came on. Just like I would assume the character must have felt in the car,
Yeah.
the truck as well. But just and then I went and I started looking into their music and I realized, oh my God, messages and telecommunication. Telecommunication was my all-time favorite song. As a kid, I used to be in the back seat with the summer breeze coming in, and I'd be in heaven. But I never realized who sang that song, and through your film, I was able to rediscover all of that, and now I'm like a big fan. But
Love that.
talk to us, please, about music licensing. What what was that
You
like?
just killed the mood. No. I will talk about that, but seriously though, the first thing is more shouts. This is to my husband, Jeffrey Montero, who has helped. Jeffrey has an extremely rapid and very astute eye and ear and brain for color and sound and shape and what story that conveys. He's a designer, and so I was completely fixated on getting Never Let Me Down Again by Depeche Mode for that scene. I mean, I can't years. I mean, people who know me probably remember I like lost weight and hair stressing about getting the rights for that song. I was just the lyrics were, so I was like, my man, and like, so, it was, oh my God, I was so gaslit by Sony. I was like, I was trying by myself to get it. It was brick walls. And one day Jeffrey was like, everybody said, why does it have to be that song? And I was like, you be quiet. It has to be this song, which I realize is just not the way to be. And Jeffrey's like, do Space Age Love Song. And I was like, but it's too happy. And Jeffrey's like, what are you talking about? It's a soaring moment. This is the one time in this story that this kid has a gateway to for the first time seeing something different and feeling a different way. And we watched it with that, and I was like, oh my God, this is so obvious and so brilliant. I've wasted a year trying to get Sony to act like humans. So that started the process for the licensing. That part's really not very interesting. It's just, here's more advice from someone who's done things the hard way a lot. If you want to shoot a period film, don't. There's my advice.
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, not really kidding. But I say that because I did not know what I was getting myself into. I mean, I did. I knew the production design was going to be challenging. Of course I knew, but I didn't understand how the songs come out of the car radio. They're part of the scene. So absolute non-starter for me for like, well, if you heard this band from Brooklyn sounds super 80s. I'm like, no, just no. Not gonna fly. And I listen to all these kind of 80s songs that nobody knows and stuff, but I mean, sometimes those are cheaper. Popular pop songs, of course, are usually more money, but the scale of this is not what you would think. Like it completely depends on the publisher and completely depends on who is involved. So there's amazing stories of like, Bruce Springsteen and whatever, like wasn't it like Baby Driver that he like tweeted at Bruce Springsteen or something and was like, I can only have this song. And Bruce Springsteen was like, awesome, dude, you can have it. And it was just like $1. And my God, okay, this is fantasy land. It occurs, give it your best shot. But I finally hired a music supervisor named Brittany Duziak in LA who is fantastic. And she was like, you should not have been going this alone, man. These songs are hard. And within like weeks, we had it lined up. And but it's difficult. I got festival rights only.
Yes.
And right now I am in the crux of a decision about what to do to get it online. Because getting it online, even just streaming, even just on YouTube or my own website, is global. So global is everything. I mean, I can remove theatrical from that, so it's not the most expensive, but I'm back in that space of, does it have to be these songs? And at this point, when people come to me all the time being like, oh my God, this song's made it, it's perfect. I'm like, I have no choice here. I have to figure it out. So it is a current issue. It's a current problem. Yeah.
I'm going to chime into that because, first of all, I love your determination and thank you so much for sharing that because, filmmakers, we automatically assume like we love the song and we're like, yes, I want to use it. And then you kind of have this impression in your head that's all these obstacles when you want to hear like a really, really popular song. So I'm doing my MBA program and we had somebody from Sony Music Publishing, talking about Sony. And, I definitely was very challenging about that. It's like you guys are, there's a revenue stream that you guys are missing out on because independent filmmakers want to use your music. And one thing that he did say was that now they're taking everything into consideration. So it's not necessarily like a one size fits all type of thing. It's now per project. So I thank you for Martin for asking that because I want anybody watching this, you want a song, go contact the music publisher. I mean, usually it takes two licenses, the music publisher and the record label, from what Sony shared. But things are definitely being, just again, look at
and the writer. You actually need three.
Oh, really? He said only two. But
Yeah.
isn't the writer
It
considered?
depends. Sometimes they're the same. Sometimes entities are the same.
Oh, and sometimes they're on a different
Yeah.
contract. Yeah. So again, I was really happy to hear that because it kind of diffuses the stigma. Like we can't, I mean, I love using a composer creating original music. I love that. But you had your heart set on a song. You were very, very specific. And I love that because your film to me, everything felt very intentional from the gorgeous shots to those moments to the gazes. Giacomo, kudos to you on that one because there are some, and then Martin's going to delve in on these gorgeous shots. So for me, everything was punctuated with specificity, and that is the elegance and the beauty of your film. And I felt that. I was moved. So,
Thank you
all
so
right,
much.
go ahead, Martin, take it from me.
So the next thing I want to get into with Clayton is so Clayton, so one thing I noticed about your filmmaking, you do different genres. Too Late is a horror short film. Off Track Betty is on its own. Kansas 1989 is what we would call queer cinema. And I found that completely refreshing, and I applaud you for that, for just being open, because I feel that that's what true artistry is, and not just say that anyone who wants to just try one thing and that's it is not shouldn't be valued as an artist. But I do admire people who are able to spread their wings. Um, so what I want to ask also is your opinion in queer cinema. It's changed over time, and I'll give you a perfect example of that. Not to go so far with William Friedkin, of course, the big film The Exorcist, The French Connection, but yet on the flip side, as a heterosexual filmmaker, he did Boys in the Band very effectively. He did also Cruising, controversial for its time. The gay community were not really so ecstatic about that, but he did it. Al Pacino did a great job as well. But then we also have a filmmaker like John Schlesinger, who did Midnight Cowboy, I guess an openly gay filmmaker. But then on the flip side, he did something like The Marathon Man, so he's able to dive into different genres and all that. How do you feel about? It feels to me like film directors have an easier way of dealing with that, but being able to get away with that more so than actors. And you're coming from the acting world, and we see a lot of openly gay actors who sometimes don't get the same opportunities that heterosexual actors. So heterosexual actors who play gay roles, give you a perfect example, Sean Penn in Milk. I know I'm blanking out right now, but other people who won Oscars and all this, they get all the recognition. Oh, that's very brave. This is whatever. But then you have the openly gay actors who are sort of like pigeonholed and say, well, we'll put you in this corner here. This is where you belong. What is your opinion on all that, and what do you make of all that?
I mean, my opinion, the industry is the industry. Humans are humans. For all the kind of Sturm und Drang and debate and that we all as audiences and as queer people or just civilians, so to speak, get into about these issues, the fact of the matter is studios and production and budgets and dollars you gotta it doesn't really matter what we think is right. Like if somebody says like a gay person should play a gay character, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. That's a ridiculous thing to say. What I mean is it's an intellectual exercise, and we should be aware that when we have these conversations, that's what we're doing, which is fantastic. We should know where we stand on things. So great. But when it comes to like actually planning, and if you were selling selling something, or if you're not the one in charge and there's other voices in the room, which that's almost always the case. This is one reason why I've always written and directed and raised my own money for things, because I've never had to do that. It doesn't matter what you think. I mean, maybe it does if you really go to bat for what you believe in, or a particular actor. I know Tracy Lehman, who did Bob Trevino Likes It last year, queer filmmaker and a beautiful film. And Tracy had this the short version of this is very, very dedicated to this one person in one role. And this person was not A-list or whatever, and raising the money. And Tracy raised, I can't remember what it was, 1.35 million, which is, not that much for what that movie is. It's incredible, actually. It was written to be a $3 million movie. Given that, with distribution and when investors were like, there has to be somebody who's going to guarantee eyeballs. So it was a whole negotiation. So John Leguizamo was the person who ended up in a different role, and fantastically talented and perfect for the part. It was the solution. It was an elegant solution for the problem of the lead character being played by someone who, isn't A-list. And I think that is a recent example of something that we all have to be aware of and parlay into any of these conversations around who we want and what we want. Unless you're in charge of it yourself, the rest of it is kind of, conversation.
Yeah, it's like Jared Leto. That's the other example in Dallas Buyers Club. There was a little bit of an uproar because he was playing a trans character, and it should have been a real trans actor to play that role. Sean Baker, did that brilliant with Tangerine, where he was like what you just said. I mean, he probably just raised the money on his own. He cast whoever he wanted. He had that power. Where in the industry, it's a little bit more like you gotta just play along, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I do want to say that since I was in charge, with other people, we were very intentional about that. And of the whole company, we were over 50% female. We had, I can't remember the number now, but tons of LGBT people in the company. And I do believe that representation is incredibly important. And of course, I believe all that. I feel like I should have led with that instead of my jaded thing. Um, and depicting the story of these teenagers, the whole thing about seeing yourself on screen is very meaningful for any marginalized community, for anybody. Seeing yourself is a meaningful thing, and there's a lot of talk about that and more awareness about that now. But one thing I kind of wanted to add with the creation of Kansas 1999 was that this is autobiographical, and coming from being closeted in the 80s, coming from there and going through that, one of the reasons why this story was important to me to share was for the representation, for the we gays, and also for everybody else to see this story and think, this kid being quiet could be going through something that you have no idea. So for me, these stories are also about raising the bar for what we expect about how everybody moves through the world. And that was one of my organizing kind of principles for this short.
nice. Okay, great. So I'm gonna move over to Giacomo for a second. So Giacomo, I know I spoke with you briefly after the Q&A at the Queens World Film Festival, and I mentioned to you I was so impressed with the framing, the cinematography, everything. So I do want to, I want to speak to you. I know you're a painter. How much of that influenced you as a cinematographer? And I'm assuming a lot, but let me just, before you get into it, I just want to say Off Track Betty, for example, there's that shot of the tree where you pull back, and oh my God, I mean, I saw so much details, and it was just so hypnotizing in a lot of ways. And it just feels like, right, this guy, he sees things differently as a cinematographer. And I wanted you to just explain just how much of that comes from painting, being a painter, and yeah.
Well, thanks for the question. I think you nailed it. I think the bringing up the tree. Well, first of all, the beauty and sometimes when cinematography is striking, we forget that the reason why it's striking is because it works hands in hands with the story and the directors and the actors. So I believe the strength from Kansas is because originated everything from Clayton and a beautiful storytelling. And then we kind of find it becomes easy to find. The less you tweak it, the less you interfere, the better the cinematography works with the story. Now you bring the off track Betty tree, and if you notice, there is another detail, another tree growing over a fence in a very small shot, very short shot, in also in Kansas. That's maybe where my painting approach comes in. Is not necessarily an aesthetic approach. I mean, what I paint honestly is not very cinematic, but is um attitude towards knowing where to pause and when to pause. And I love to be idle. Like I honestly like try not to shoot as much as possible. I don't care for it. I don't try to keep myself as busy as possible. I mean, you see where I am. I need to breathe. I need to take breaks. I need to stop and look around. And that attitude towards what surrounds me informs the painting and the cinematography. So they help each other to um, to just be aware and be influenced and be open-minded, and whether it's like a detail that you want to film, whether it's a story that you're not too familiar with, uh you just listen or watch, and that is probably the bridge between painting and filmmaking. Then you can apply that one to everything. You can apply that to your life. um
Yeah,
I
so
don't know
like
if I answered.
no, absolutely, because and even the scene when Aiden walks out of the basement to the house in the basement, and then he falls to the floor, and before he
Hmm.
crushes his glasses, he looks up for a second. You see that great frame of the trees with the light, the street light, and it's just so abstract, and it seems so kind of like, well, all right, it's random, but it's not. There's such significance in it, so I think it's like really interesting how you're able to capture these abstract moments. Like,
I think it was with you. I think you brought it up, and I think
yeah,
I might have told you that might be one of the longest setup.
oh, wow,
The shot up the trees.
nice, okay.
I
And
mean,
Giacomo, and
I mean,
if you remember Giacomo, there was some pressure, there were some voices on set about like, what are we doing? Like, cut this shot.
yeah, no, I remember those voices. I don't listen to those too much, and well, no, not because I'm unaware. Sometimes I know what I'm doing or what we're doing, and I know that if we have to save some times, it will be maybe 3 shots from now. So I kind of, I do want to work with AD. I do want to work with the schedule, but I thought if that shot wasn't done properly and so in a way that yes, then you don't need it. Then if you just shoot it, then you don't need it. But if you're like, I'm staring at this thing and he tells me something and he's like, what if I were in that zone? What if I were in that um mental state and physical state? What would just capture my attention? Where is that, what is the tension, what is the visual tension? So, and it takes a minute to find it.
Yeah,
um
very, very visceral. Yes, like organic. It feels very. I know Off Track Betty and Kansas 1989 was shot on film. Um, can you guys talk to us about that? What is the process? Why the decision to shoot on film? And then on top of that, the challenges of shooting on film. The expense maybe, the time it consumes on set, all of that. The cameras.
Yeah, well,
um
gear, Giacomo,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Giacomo can cover gear in a second, but I just want to say about the film part. This is definitely a thing where being a first-time filmmaker, I was like, it sounded sexy, it sounded great, and I didn't know, and the vices don't do it again. I'm totally kidding. I love film, big believer. But that was not the original plan. It was not the original plan. We were like well into pre-production. It was very late in the game. And I remember it was, and the Giacomo called me on the phone and was like, I just realized something. We have to shoot on film. And I was like, and Giacomo and I have a very, well, let's just say I was like, thank you for your input, you know.
Hold on, was
And
that back at yeah, that was Off Track Betty.
Off Track Betty, I mean, yeah.
Oh
And
wow, I
then,
have different memories. No, go ahead. I want to hear your story. Even if you're
well,
making it up, is interesting.
no, because we were going back and forth about like the perspective and everything. And you called me with this quick thing, and you're like, "It's perfect. It's of the time. It's how Betty sees the world because the lead character, like the '70s, was more of her kind of prime or whatever." And I was like, thank you so much. I remember it was raining. I was on the Lower East Side. I mean, I lived down there, and I was walking up Avenue B, and it was raining. And I was like, thank you, Giacomo. It's brilliant. I don't know how we would ever pull that off. That's nuts, but thank you. Whatever. Got the phone, walking up, and it was raining, and the street lights, and I was like, I mean, it's weird to refer to Michael Mann in a moment like that, but reflections of street lights in puddles, and I'm walking down the street, and I was like, oh God, I think he's right. Holy shit. New York City. And I was like, oh my God, it really makes sense. Like, and Giacomo and I love the way that our minds kind of meld around image as story and the image communicating the story, every single frame. We're just, if we don't get there, one of us is like, that's not right. And it just goes like that. And the film decision was one of those big things. And then the budget part, Giacomo, I didn't know what he'd done, but he found film on eBay from this dude who was working on a set in Phoenix or something, or Albuquerque or something. And it was a studio thing that shot on film. And there's all this leftover film stock, and the guy put it in his fridge. We didn't know who this guy was. Who knows if he'd put it in his fridge? There's no guarantee about anything. See, I didn't know anything about it. Giacomo kept all of that from me. He was like, I found some used film. It's like, what's used film? He's like, pre-bought. It's gonna be great. It's cheap. It's like, okay, just like let him do it. It's crazy. It could have gone. And now I know from our literally learning this in Q&As at festivals that Giacomo, when we were waiting to get the film developed at Deluxe before they closed, we were one of the last film projects to be processed at Deluxe before they closed. He was like, "Oh man, I hope this film was legit. I hope this develops." Right? Do you
All
remember
right,
that
kids,
film?
kids, don't try this at home, okay? And if you do, maybe you test your film stock and your cameras. But we got lucky. But yeah, don't do it.
It worked.
Yeah,
It
and
worked.
I mean,
And then the choice to do it this time was because Queen's World and Kodak gifted me the film. So I mean, because that's a completely different situation.
nice.
Yeah.
All
And then
right.
as far as like budgeting time, yeah, you got 3 takes. You don't get more than 3 takes. I don't get more than 3 takes. Nobody gets more than 3 takes. And if you do, and odd, you are always like, if I got it in one, be like, okay, one more really quick for safety, and that's it. You move on. If you get two, it's like, yes, we have like a budget for an extra one somewhere else when we have to, and that's how it worked. And
Hmm.
of course, there's always surprises, and you need to like you're budgeting your takes. And of course, you're doing that however you shoot because you're budgeting time and money no matter what. But it's specific. It's a really specific thing, especially with directing actors. I can't be like, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. You just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, both films look really beautiful. It is like a painting, so props to you guys for making that decision. I think it worked in the end. And Clayton, you just pushed me into the next round of questions, because I do want to talk about the actors. We talked about prep, we talked about finance a little bit, we talked about whatever locations, all of that's part of filmmaking. But if you don't have the right set of actors for your project, there's no film, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to point out one thing though. Clayton, please let us know who plays the high school theater teacher in the
Okay,
film.
let's do it. All right. This is kind of burying the lead because I feel like this is pretty much like the most wild and interesting thing about the making of this particular project. Him, and many other elements of Kansas 1999. Once we decided to shoot there, the kismet and the connections and stuff, the full circle-ness of it was a little nutso. So, this night depicted in the film was a real night that happened to me and one of my best friends in high school. the cool kid, and we have always stayed close, but with a lot of friends from youth, that doesn't mean frequent. And so, we get a beer sometimes every few years and that kind of thing, but it was really over the, whatever, normal adult friendship from the past. And when I wrote this thing, I was in Kansas City visiting my parents or something, and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell him, I wanted to share with him that I'd written this." And so we go out and we were catching up, and it's really great. And I say, I've written a screenplay for a short about something about one of our many, 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 many episodes in high school. Uh, and I wanted to share that with you because you're in it. And he said, let me guess, it was the night that we were in XYZ's basement. He just knew. I mean, we went through a lot of things. It was actually somewhat surprising that he just knew immediately. I was like, yep, that's the one. And so then I'm talking about the challenges of shooting in Kansas, and we're going to come here and do it, but I can't be here that much beforehand, and talent and rah. And he said, like, well, you do know that Sarah Cooper, his wife, that Sarah and I, this is Matt Rapport is his name, um, are teachers of teenagers at Shakespeare. And I said, no, I did not know that. I mean, I knew he was a Shakespeare actor. He became a very successful actor there. But the exact part about kids did not click. And he said that, and I was like, oh, okay, right. And he goes, let us be your casting directors. I was like, what? So in the casting room, it was me and Matt, the real people that the characters were based on, auditioning teenagers to play us, saying words that were said in real life by us. So that was nuts. And then I cast Matt as the drama director in the opening scene in the auditorium. So Matt is in the film as well, and it just brings I had such onset was a little bit like, like meta kind of crazy because we actually shot that scene was shot in a different high school, but the outside scene of the parking lot was shot at our high school. Joey Wheeler, who played Aiden, the lead, he is the son of one of my bestest, dearest, closest friends from high school, Andrea. I expect that they're on this streaming right now. I knew he was an actor and interested in acting. And in addition to the people they called in, I had this thought of Joey. Oh God, and he came in. It's like that would be a great, wild, and far and away the best. Far and away, I was like, oh my God, it's him. So Joey, the son of my friend, um, played me. So that was pretty nuts. And then the other actors, Brandon Olson and Stephen Tafoya, came from the casting directors. Matt, of course, was the drama director. And it was just very, very fortuitous how that all came together. And then the support on set, the extras in the auditorium and the kids who leave the high school,
Yeah.
many of those kids are the children of my friends and peers from the thespian program at Shawnee Mission East High School in Shawnee Mission, Kansas. So
Nice.
yeah. So, and it was just amazing. And their parents, so that when we had these screening, it was just like the reunion I never knew I needed. These people, all these people from high school and their kids who were part of this project, and many of whom were queer and young adults. And that was super fun. Really loved that.
How weird was it to direct Joseph Wheeler as playing yourself? Like what, like how was it? Like, I mean, one thing is to direct an actor to play a character that you've written maybe or whatever, but it's a whole different thing to direct an actor who's playing you.
Well, when I wrote it, I had one stage of separation, just one stage, before we were casting everything.
Yeah.
That had already occurred because I had to change certain things, obviously, the dialogue and events, like whatever, I had to tweak things here and there and make it so that it wasn't really me, like literally exactly me. Um, so there was a little bit already, a tiny bit of distance in my head. The casting process was wild, but then when we were on set, I just had to execute. So I was aware of how kind of wild all was or whatever, but I really wasn't, that's not where my head was. I was in, image and getting it done and it has to be this and having everything be crystal clear. There was one exception of the night. In fact, the scene that you mentioned when he collapses running out of the house with the tree shot. And that moment was when I just had a few seconds of like, good Lord, I am fully conjuring an internal lived experience that I never shared with anybody at the time. I mean, by the way, when I wrote this screenplay, like friends from high school were like, why didn't you tell us this happened? Like Matt and I were both like, I don't know. I don't know. We got through it. It was fine. The next day something else happened. Like Matt and I kind of nobody knew this happened. So it's just weird. High school, we were kids. I don't know. So that one moment with Joey when he was looking up and I'm looking and everything, that really, really hit. And I had to kind of excuse myself for a second because I thought, it's not the most professional look to like have a me moment and like break down on set in front of everybody. So I kind of like, great job. And I came back and gathered myself when we went on. But it was a little bit stuck to that. And most of the heart swell and the like, holy shit has happened since. I mean, in the edit and at the screenings and the festivals and hang out with people, that's where the real true joy and connection with so many of these people and the audiences who responded to them has been of just a really life affirming and work affirming journey.
Nice. I mean, you're talking about everybody from high school, you kept in contact with some of them. Do you know whatever happened to that character, Troy, from the basement, whatever became of him? Because the truth is, he brought back a lot of memories for a lot of people that I've known in the late 80s, the metal dudes with the, faded jeans, ripped faded jeans, or into Metallica, Ozzy, and all that stuff. And you always say to yourself, like, wow, I wonder what ever became of them. And I wonder, like, if they ever became bankers, maybe they got their shit together, but then you and I went the opposite way and became artists, So what do you know whatever became of Troy?
Nope. When Matt and I started talking about stuff after we shot, because I didn't really care about, because early on there was a moment that Matt said, this isn't quite, this is a good story. This isn't quite how I remembered it before we shot, after he'd read it. And he didn't say it in a, confrontational way or anything. It was like a point of interest. It's like amazing. It's not quite. And I said like, well, of course. I mean, I would expect that. I couldn't really hear. I didn't want to know. For me, this is what the truth of the story was for me, and that's what I needed to depict, and that was its thing. So I kind of couldn't take any input at that point. But when we had the private screening in Kansas City for everybody, and Matt was there, and we had this moment afterwards at the bar, and I said to him, Matt, like you said once, this isn't exactly how I remember it, and I've been waiting for really years at that point. How did it differ? Like how was it different? And I could not believe this. He looked at me, he goes, I said that. I was like, yeah. And he was like, no, that's pretty much how it was.
Wow.
I I I remember Clayton, you telling me that he remembered differently. So I think he forgot. I think he got used to watching like the movie, and now he perceives that as a loyal recollection of his memories. Um, and that's actually an interesting point. Like, and I don't know, there is no the way also it was shot. Let's not forget that this is, yes, a period piece, but it's also a way you distill the memory of something that happened to you, something that belongs to the past, and that's kind of like, you know, um, Clayton's version or his memories. So it doesn't have to be step by step what it was, what it happened. Nobody's fact checking us, but it's kind of like a, a dream in a dream, a dream in a memory. If that makes sense. So I think the simplicity of the shot and having like you remember a dream
You're
that is
losing
kind
your
of disconnected.
losing yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I think these are done. One sec. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Could you hear me before?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's like kind of like when you have a dream and you remember just very small fraction of it, or just a one image. You know, you don't remember the dream in like different angles and close-ups and wide shot. It's just like that's one way that you remember it, and like a feeling that you remember, not even images sometimes. So that's kind of how I think we try to shoot Kansas.
Yeah,
At least,
And it
well,
worked.
and one other thing about that is that I realize is important is the writing part. It was what was in the writing that I was exploring for a long time as I wrote this was the internal experience of the protagonist is what I was trying to depict. So, I did another thing that is not advisable, which was writing a passive protagonist. Um, Everything happens to him.
yeah.
And I mean, with a couple, with basically, yeah. And so that's hard to turn into an image. And that's why Joey's performance is perfect because the availability of his face and his eyes clocking everything and making internal determinations that we don't know what they are in real time, especially in the basement. That was what was important to me was a portrait of an internal experience. And I didn't know if it was possible, but I knew that that was what the story is. That's what coming out is. I mean, the coming out, you don't come out like that and then it's done. You say it and it's magic. I mean, you come out again and again and again and again to yourself 100 times and to people, of course, more externally, but it's so much more complicated than I feel is glossed over when we talk about it. And anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to do. So where it diverges from, whatever happened is mostly about the priority being painting that picture,
Mm-hmm.
coming up with stuff that was in the real world, that is in the real world of the script that actually is about mirroring his internal journey.
But I have to say that I was very connected to the character Aiden's emotional journey because it was, shot in such an elegant way. And we saw that through his POVs. I mean, my favorite shot was, I mean, I had, you had all these frame within frames, and it was, like I said before, very intentional. My favorite shot, I call it, don't kill me, the Grease shot, Danny Zuko shot, when when he's outside and we see Ryan's character and the way I mean, the blue sky. I think you like the blue sky, Giacomo. I don't know. I'm getting that kind of aesthetic that I saw it in Off Track Betty, but here the way the camera just pans up, it's just such a beauty. Can I tell you? I said to myself, "Wow, I'd be crushing on this guy. I mean, this guy is." And the way you capture him, I know that it's coming from the way Ryan's captured is coming from Aiden's internal, like his thought process. And I think what you wanted to achieve, at least for me, I felt it was achieved. I loved it. It was beautiful. And the shots just so sophisticated. It really, all of it, like, so yeah, I love that shot. And the opening shot. So I'm really big at, like, I'm always very aware of the opening shot and the last shot. And I love, and when you opened and we just see, like, I said, "Oh, this is interesting." You hooked me in those first few seconds. Like, I want to know who this person is. And then boom, I see him. And then he starts off in a singular first shot, but at the end, we end with him and his friend in a two shot. And I said, okay, there was something like it just, again, how you said images as story. It really worked here. It was the gold of this film.
Well, thank you so much for all of that. And one thing I want to remind you of,
Yes.
for the memory of seeing it versus the actual last shot is just him. The actual last frame is just him
Him?
after the two shots. And actually it reminds me of this one night that Giacomo and I went back to the hotel
Uh-huh.
and we did not have time to squeeze in an extra thing. And goddess bless Eden Martinez, our producer on set, who I mean, Eden was just easy for me to get absorbed into me and Giacomo's and my thing of like, oh gosh, we got to get this too, we got to do that, and it's discipline. We did have a budget and everything, but we needed to change something. We had done the two shot
Mm-hmm.
when Aiden comes out of the house and stands up and steps on his glasses,
Right.
and then Ryan comes up from the back and they have this little thing. Do you want to get out of here? And their thing in the lawn there. That setup originally was an actual two shot,
Mm.
even playing.
Meaning they were standing right next to each other, like shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
And we knew, Giacomo and I long before had been like, ugh, this is like an ugly setup, but whatever. It needs to get done. We got to move them to the next thing. Not ugly, but I mean, like it's perfunctory and it's and afterward, we had a moment of that unpleasant something isn't right moment that we usually don't have on set that much. There's usually that's the part of the process in pre-production. And we went back to the hotel that night and we're both like, that's not it. Shit, what are we gonna do? This is not it. And we couldn't remember this, Giacomo. We couldn't quite figure out what, and it was about the story. And it was so the final thing that somehow we got water from a stone. Why were we even in the same location 2 days in a row? It makes no sense. I think it's because the pickups of the car, I don't know, but we had a little more time at the exterior of the house there. And I just imagined being like, Eden, we need to do that again. I was like, oh my God. Somehow we did it, and we reshot that entire scene with Aiden standing up, and Ryan walks up, stays in the back, and is never in focus.
Mm.
And that's what the final shot is not the last shot, but what that tube thing is, because the real story is Aiden's. As we get to the end of the journey, the real story is his. It's not theirs.
Right.
That was the part that I knew, but was kind of viscerally missing for the audience visually. And that simple, well, not simple, but that one change, I'm just so grateful that we managed to get that in and do that, because I think it makes all the difference leading us up to the
Yeah,
end.
I don't remember how we started the conversation about obsession is, but I remember just having like just something didn't sit right. Um, and to connect what you were saying, Julissa, that it was kind of built like that. Like, how do we again is like the difficulties of presenting a story of a character that doesn't do anything really. He's just going with the wind, you know. He's open to feelings, new feelings. He goes, gets in the car, might go to Danny, they end up in a basement. So I think all the steps that we're like, how about we introduce this character in a powerful way, in a mysterious way from behind. Like we just like, and slowly a wide shot, slowly we introduce him, slowly you see the close up. How do we make this engaging where nothing really happens to him? Even the tension scene is somebody pointing a gun at him, but then it just fades away, right? So even the moment where there is tension, it just kind of doesn't go into a traditionally American storytelling way. Then somebody gets 5 guns and starts shooting 25 people, you know. Doesn't matter how good the movie is, usually there is a gun, usually somebody gets shot. Nobody got shot in our movie. It's fine. Yeah, we made it. We made it. Um,
Broke the
and
Chekhov, we
and
broke
then
the
at the
Chekhov rule.
end is like, but then at the end when you are like you have this somehow uh traditionally weak narration about this character. How do you make him? What changes from the beginning to the end is introducing him, see what he sees, and then he at this point obviously the leader of the story. So having him next to the subject of his gaze was wrong. He kind of moved past that. He kind of made some potential discovery about himself that now it has to underline a little bit. And I think changing that shot, it's the little things. We don't have many shots in the movie, but if one shot doesn't work, we have to redo it.
Yeah.
And then I agree with you. The shot that we don't need, we're not gonna go ahead and shoot them. I don't know, Clayton. I don't remember details about, but I don't remember. I don't know. You tell me you were sitting in editing. I don't know if you ended up not using a shot that we,
Are you kidding?
you know,
We budget there. Oh my God. No, everything we've done together, the challenge and the edit has been we don't have extra. We don't do, there's
we
no
don't have extra.
barely coverage. There's
We don't have
barely
extra.
coverage. We plot it out. I mean, no, no, that was deeply stressful when you like don't
Yeah.
have a choice. It ended up just being about massaging that. And no, every single setup that we did, with the exception of the failed first two shot, is in the film. Every single one.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Maybe next time we'll just get a couple of shots extra. Maybe.
In
Let's
fact,
see.
oh my gosh, I remember at the end, on set, the basement was the last thing we shot. It was 5 days shoot. It was time to wrap. Um, we were done, and there were like four kind of B-roll kind of insert shots we had wanted to get close-ups of this and that prop and stuff. And those kept being the ones that Giacomo and I kept pushing because they were not critical. They were sexy and lovely and we wanted them, but they were not critical. But they didn't involve actors. Well, one of them did. And so we wrapped, and we had to wrap everybody, and everybody was wrapped. And without sound and without everything, Giacomo just took the camera and just, this is about as guerrilla as you can get, actually, like, you know, after wrapping, and just shot shit. Um,
Yeah.
and that all ended up in it too. And some of that was like the when the first time we actually see the switchblade.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't plan that.
You didn't plan that? Wow.
I mean, sometimes filmmaking is it's all about you utilizing your instincts. So that's a perfect example, I would say, where it was effective. Because when you look at the certain shots, you just feels everything just was planned. But that's interesting that some of the shots were not planned. But all right, guys, you've been amazing. You guys, I'm more than honored to have you here talking about Kansas 1989. I do finish the FIB live conversations with one question to every filmmaker that's on here because it's interesting to get different perspectives. And I will ask as a two-part question for Clayton, for Giacomo each. And I'm not gonna, you know, put this in a genre, but overall in indie filmmaking, what do you feel is the future of indie filmmaking? Part A, and part B would be what is in the future for you? So what's your opinion about indie filmmaker? Where do you think it's going to go? What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to get tougher, more complicated, maybe easier in terms of finance, in terms of getting the projects together, and what's in store for you guys?
I mean, we could talk all day about the current state of the industry, but all I'll say about that is it is definitely tougher from now on. It already has been and is going to be tougher for models that we are used to and have come to know and assumed we're always going to be there. That's just, things are just done and shifting and changing, and we are in the middle of a massive recalibration. Everything is contracted, consolidating, as we all know. I'm not going to. However, I do see that eventually I believe that there will be an opportunity for independent filmmakers to take the reins over their own careers and not wait for permission and not wait. Of course, it's hard and it means doing a lot more of the heavy lifting and everything. But if you pay attention and follow the right resources and people and accounts and stuff, Tracy Lehman is one great example. There are incredible creative accomplishments happening despite all of the obstacles happening right now. So just for anybody who cares about telling stories and wants to get into it or wants to keep doing it or is losing faith in everything, it can be real ugly, but holy hell, like don't give up on it. If it matters to you, keep the idea, write it, nourish it, talk to people, share your goal publicly, keep the vision alive and water the garden and all that. And see what happens and see what connections might occur. I ended up with a friend who just was like, well, I know the general manager of 21C Hotel. Do you want free rooms? I'm like, "Oh, okay." I mean, you never know. Don't decide ahead of time that it's impossible. Just don't do that. Okay. And then what? Oh, so yeah, next, burning to turn this to keep going further. There are many, 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 many more episodes with these characters. So there's been a feature film version of this, absolutely. Um, Maybe even a limited series. Both of these things, I am sitting with how those things would look and what feels right and what the actual big story is, because this whole thing is just one little corner of the world at that time. So that, and then I have a horror comedy, the feature that I've written that would be a dream. So I'm still kind of cultivating that one. And there's a short story by a guy named Randy DeVita that I would love to turn into an animated short. I would really love to do that, but I don't know how to do that on a budget either. So those are the things in my brain right now.
Nice. And Giacomo?
Well, I'm gonna forgive me. My phone is about to die, so let's see if I get cut off. Thank you for having us and forgive me. I do believe the future in indie filmmaking stays in get your stuff done, but I don't know if gonna make sense financially, which will make the storytelling and the filmmaking probably better. I don't think the streaming services and what's out there is gonna go along with the indie filmmaking. But maybe we're gonna rediscover getting together and just doing screenings and things like this, and that's probably a good thing. But I'm not smart enough to understand how all that operates, honestly. So, in the future, um, I just wanna work with Clayton again as soon as possible. So, there are
Giacomo,
very few.
tell them about your show that's up right now.
Yeah, I have a painting show happening now in Carroll Garden. That's a bit of an achievement for me. It was a dream of mine to just have uh, all my work shown in a gallery. I've been painting for years, but I haven't really made it into. I haven't really shared it. It was more like a personal practice. And then before the summer, I started to be more open, and it's going great. I'm getting a lot of. Oh, that's it.
No.
Oh,
All right.
Oh,
wait,
yeah.
Giacomo, but it's Plant. What's the name of the gallery?
I
Yes,
think
I want to hear about it because I'd love to go, but
it's Plant 4. Hold on one second.
It's a number.
460. Hold on one second. Where is it? Giacomo.
Plant 486 Art is the Instagram handle, 486 Court Street.
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
And please follow us. I'm Eyes of Clayton. Dean is my personal account, but I'm always talking film stuff there. And then the production company is Captain Bulldog Productions
Amazing.
on Instagram. And Giacomo's, well, I'm Giacomo Belletti, I think, just saying his business.
Yeah. All
Right.
right.
Good things. I want to show a clip from the film, with your permission, Clayton, because I just want to. It's just such a brilliant film, and the actors are so brilliant. So I want to give them their little moment in spotlight as well as your work. And we're going to do that as closer now. But I think, Julissa, did you want to say something before I show the clip to close out the conversation?
Well, Clayton, I just want to say that again, thank you so much for being here in Filmmakers and Boardrooms. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and to you and all other filmmakers, all indie filmmakers who are in the struggle. I literally was with my mom yesterday and we were talking about the filmmaking world, and she's so good. And she was like, listen, you got to grab the bull by the horns and tell him who's boss and stay there and be strong and win. Filmmakers, we got this. We got this. Do your stuff. I'm taking my own advice. I'm trying too. Here we are, but we're together, and together we can move mountains. So I leave you with that. Clayton, it's been a pleasure. I really wish you the best. I was
So
moved.
much.
You made me feel.
I
So,
love that.
all right, Martin, let's see that clip.
All right.
Thank you so much for having us.
One quick second. And this is a clip of right at the beginning, main character is talking to the other character. Aiden's speaking with the other character, Ryan, in the high school parking lot.
I can't hear anything though.
Hey, you got this. Don't think I'll be needing it. He called me Mister.
I don't know why you go off on him like that all the time.
I'm just telling the truth.
And it gets you in trouble.
Don't care.
But you can't not be.
Martin, we can't really hear it. It's okay. All right.
Well, you can drop the clip into the edited version of this if you're going to put this online.
Yeah, we'll clean it up. All right. Well, yeah, I think this is it.
Thank you so much for having us. Really, really appreciate it.
All right.
Much fun to talk about it and be with you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.